So, all right, guys, we got to get this one right. On three, we're going to say, welcome back to Extraordinary Thoughts Put on Their Mind. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to Mind.
And we back.
That'll work right there.
Yeah.
And we back. And we
Yeah.
back. And we back. And we back. And we
Y'all did y'all best. And that's all that matters.
Now, before we get started with this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this episode, share this podcast, and if you can, do me a favor, head on down to the review section and leave an honest review, because this podcast was dedicated to helping us become a better version of ourselves. And I don't know what that version is, but I know that just like we need a little bit more money, just like we need a little bit more sleep, just like we need a little bit more of anything in life, we deserve to be a little better than what we are right now. What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thickpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Thoughts for the Ordinary Mind. What's going on, everybody? You know, this is the episode right after Thanksgiving. I love it here. You know what I mean? Like right after my favorite holiday. And if you got a chance to hear me on Instagram, go over Thanksgiving 101, you're welcome. You know what I mean? If you missed it, then guess what? I'll see you in 2023 when I do another Thanksgiving 101. Now, a lot of people always ask me, like, why is it that, you know, Thanksgiving is your favorite holiday, especially with all the other holidays in the year? You feel me? You know, you have Halloween, you have Christmas, you have Valentine's Day, you have 4th of July, you have Sweetest Day, you have a lot of fucking holidays. But Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays just because of the love that the holiday brings. You know what I mean? And trust me, I know the history of the holiday. I know the horrible history of the holiday. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the love that it brings in the living room, the food that's cooking, the family that comes over. Like, I'm fucking with that. And another reason why I love Thanksgiving so much is because I was actually born on Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't know that. I was actually born on Thanksgiving. And if you're wondering, then yes, I do have a birthday coming up. It's going to be, when is my birthday? Oh shit, my birthday's Tuesday, November 29th. Big Sagittarius energy. And you know, I really wanted to dedicate this episode, right? Like, I really wanted to dedicate this episode to myself. I wanted to dedicate this episode to myself because this year has taught me so much. This year has really taught me so much. You know, 1 year around the sun will teach you a lot. And in my quest for knowledge and, you know, my thirst to become a better version of myself, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't share the things that it has taught me. And before I get started, like, y'all mind if I get a little personal with y'all on this episode? You know what I mean? Like, y'all mind if I get a little emotional with you on this episode? Because the things that I learned this year, you know what I mean? Like, it taught me so much. I can't help but not share it. You know what I mean? But I just really want to just ask for permission, if it's okay with everybody that's listening today, if I get a little personal. You know what I mean? If I get a little bit emotional, you know what I mean? Like, if I speak a little bit more, you know, frankly, than what I usually speak on this episode. And if that's okay with you, then, you know, the first thing that I really want to just say is forgive yourself. And I'm going to say it one more time, you know, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you didn't know before you learned it. Like, I really want you to forgive yourself for loving that motherfucker that didn't love you back, but you poured your heart out unconditionally. Like, forgive yourself for those times where you put yourself second when you know you should have put yourself first. Like, I really just want to take a step back for a second and say, can you forgive yourself for them days where you wanted to fit in, knowing damn well you didn't give a fuck about them? Forgive yourself for saying yes when you know that you really wanted to say no. Forgive yourself for loving them more than you loved yourself. Forgive yourself for those days where You smiled. And deep down, you know you wanted to express how you truly felt, but you put your emotions on the back burner and you just said, "It's okay. I'm fine." Can I just really just get this off my chest for a second and just ask for forgiveness? Because I don't know who needs to hear this, but I kind of feel like we still holding on to grudges. You feel me? Like I feel like we holding grudges to ourselves for shit that we did years ago. We still mad at what we did years ago. We still mad at ourselves for things that we didn't even know before we even knew it. You know what I mean? Like we still haven't forgiven ourselves for how we acted when we were just trying to survive. It took me a long time to finally forgive myself for that. To forgive myself for who I was when I was surviving. Forgive myself for how I acted when I didn't love myself. When others tried to love me, but because I did not love myself, I rebuked their love. It took me a long time to forgive myself for seeking others' validation when the validation that I needed should have just came from myself. Seeking affirmations from others when I should have been giving myself that. Forgive myself for the days where I stayed late working when I know I should have just went home. Forgive myself for the days where I said that, nah, I'll do it. It's okay. It doesn't really bother me. Knowing fucking well it did. Knowing that it did. You know what I mean? Like, am I the only one that's just talking to himself right now? Like, is somebody feeling me on this episode right now? Forgive yourself. See, the thing about forgiving yourself that a lot of people don't want to talk about is that when you refuse to forgive yourself, you will always hate everyone and anything that reminds you of the thing that you are trying to run away from. You know what I mean? Like when you see somebody else living their truth, when you see somebody else happy about what's going on in their lives, but because you have not forgiven yourself, because you are not happy with the actions that you did, let me rephrase that, you have not made peace with the things that you had did, they bother you. Seeing something else play out differently, but because you remember when it didn't play out in your favor, you know what I mean? Because it didn't play out in your favor and now it's playing out in somebody else's favor, that bothers you because you haven't let it go yet. You still carrying it around. You still hurt about it. Forgive yourself for what others did to you and you allowed it. And I want to give you permission to forgive yourself, Demetrius, because I don't think you really understand what I'm trying to tell you right now, because you just wanted to be accepted. You didn't want to be a burden. You just wanted to belong. And in that spiral out of control of just wanting to be accepted and wanting to belong, you put yourself in the back burner. And because you wanted to belong so bad, you stopped wanting to be around yourself. So I ask, just forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for them dumbass decisions that you made. You know what I mean? For that bum ass nigga that you gave time to and found out later on down the line that he just wasted your time. Forgive yourself for that. You didn't know that was going to happen. Forgive yourself for those times where you did motherfuckers a favor and they didn't repay you on the back burner and that shit hurt you, but you never spoke about it and you just sat around them and tried to act like that shit didn't bother you, but deep down that shit was boiling inside of you. Forgive yourself for that. Because you didn't know then. A lot of times, like, you know, we ask to become better. And when our life gives us these opportunities to become better, you know what I mean? Like gives us that adversity, gives us that friction, and we fail in that test. Like we failed that test. We get upset and we hold a grudge to ourselves, not realizing that that same test about to come back around again. You know what I mean? Like that same test gonna come back around again, and you just needed the knowledge so that way you could pass the second time. You know what? Matter of fact, forgive yourself for failing the first time. I don't think people really understand that. Forgive yourself for the opportunity that you fucked up. Forgive yourself for the risk that you didn't take. Forgive yourself for the chances that you didn't take. Forgive yourself for the people that you believed in. Like as we close this year out and we talk about our New Year's resolutions, as we talk about what it means to become a better version of ourselves, before we can ever talk about that, we got to talk about forgiving ourselves for for our own transgressions. Because as we sit back and we say that holding a grudge to somebody that no longer understands what they did to you is a waste of time. Holding a grudge to yourself, let me rephrase, holding a grudge to a person that you have evolved from, that you have grew from, that you had learned from. Come on, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of time. And I really want to just say that because you better than that. You better than that. You learn from that. And if you upset because of the experience that you did not have and the situation in which you wish you would have did better than, guess what? You have the experience now. So now that we have talked about forgiving ourselves, the other lesson that I learned this year, right? Like the other lesson that I learned, give me 1 second. Other lesson that I learned, boundaries. And, in this era, man, I really, as we talk about personal development, you know what I mean? Especially inside the military and outside the military. I feel like self-care has become so cool that everybody feels like they just need to have something wrong with them. You know what I mean? Like everybody feel like they need to have something wrong with them. All of a sudden, anxiety is cool. Anxiety is not fucking cool. I promise you that. Like all of a sudden, depression is cool. Like everybody fucking depressed. I promise you, depression is not cool. You know what I mean? Like I can't stand myself on my depressive episodes. You know what I mean? I do not like how I act. We always, in this society where it's like, oh man, I'm toxic, I'm hurt, I'm broken, I'm cold-hearted. You know what I mean? Like I'm practicing self-care, but the reality is that you're not practicing self-care. One of the things that constantly keeps getting tossed around is boundaries. You know what I mean? Like we quick to tell people like, hey, these are my boundaries, don't cross them. I set my boundaries and you crossed them. So now I got to cut you off. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know because I don't know who needs to hear this, but boundaries are meant for you. Boundaries are meant for you. Like, I don't give a fuck about your boundaries. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize that. And I know I'm always told that I'm the negative motivational speaker. I'm real blunt about what I say. But the thing is that your boundaries are actually meant for you. They were meant for you. Your boundaries are what you're supposed to do if I act a certain way. A lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? Like if I talk to you a certain way, your boundary is how you respond back to me and in the manner in which I had responded to you. You know what I mean? Like if I'm talking to you like you fucking stupid and you have no boundaries, you will allow it. But if you have boundaries, you're going to address how I am talking to you. They're not meant for me. They're meant for you. And I bring that up because a lot of times, like we set these boundaries and we expect people to abide by the boundaries that we have set. You know what I mean? Like respect the line in the sand that we have drawn. But the reality is that they don't give a fuck. That line was actually meant for the other person on the other side. The one who drew it. How you are going to react to the situation. Like if I cross this line, what are you going to do? If I don't respect your time, do you respect your time? And I tell you to understand what boundaries are because the thing about boundaries is that when you don't have boundaries, let me rephrase that, when you do not understand what boundaries are, people are not going to remind you what boundaries are. They're going to respect their boundaries, but they don't give a fuck about yours. They don't care about yours. So if you don't care about your boundaries and you don't understand what your boundaries are, how are you going to expect somebody else? And I love the fact that learning to forgive myself and understanding what boundaries happened this year, because the thing is I had a stutter for a second, but the thing is that a lot of times, like, we're upset with ourselves because we didn't uphold the boundaries that we had set. You want people to treat you a certain way, but you don't treat yourself a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, you want people to talk to you with respect, but the thing is that when something goes wrong, the first person that's got something negative to say about you is you. You do. Whether it's inside or outside, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whether you say it on the outside where you vocally are out loud saying it, or you say that shit in your head, but you're the one that be saying that negative stuff about yourself before anybody else. We sit back and we'll say that we don't care what others think about us, but the thing is that we sit back and we'll think so negative of ourselves, which in turns is that people tend to mirror how you treat yourself. So if you don't respect your boundaries, then guess what? I'm not respecting your boundaries. If you conduct yourself a certain way, then guess what? I'm about to conduct myself. I'm about to treat you in the same way that you conduct yourself. And I know that may sound harsh. I know that may sound rude. But it's almost selfish for me to respect a boundary that you're not respecting. So I tell you this, that understanding your boundaries, right? Like understanding that your boundaries are meant for you. Like your boundaries, right? Like they're the things that keep you on the path in which you want to go down. The moment that you deviate from that, ain't nobody gonna tell you, hey bro, remember your boundaries, dog. You remember how you said that you need to be treated better, that you need to have your time respected better. You know what I mean? Nobody give a fuck. So you have to. To be honest with you, I mean, when we change the word, man, like boundaries is really, respect me the same way that I'm gonna respect you. Treat me with the same type of respect. And if you don't, then understand then that I'm gonna act accordingly. That's what it really means. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned every Monday as we bring you another episode. And lastly, don't forget to like this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, and share this podcast, because this podcast was dedicated to helping you become a better version of yourself. And I don't know who needs to hear that, but just like we need more sleep, just like we need more money, we deserve to be a better version of ourselves. Stay hungry, stay motivated. I'm out.